things that someone in foreclosure is going to ask an investor. A lot of times it's a statement too, not even a question. It's more like, here's my objection. The biggest thing is like, I'm working with my lender. I'm doing a loan modification. That's essentially what they're saying when they're doing that. And I always dive deep, and you're placing like a fear, uncertainty, and doubt, because the reality is they usually don't have an idea on how that works, or know that they don't always get approved of that. So I would say, okay, are you familiar with how that process works? Are you filing a loan modification, do you mean? Or if they say yes, okay, have you ever done that before? Are you familiar with how that works? And then I'm asking questions to try and get them to dive deep to see if they really understand. Like, do I have the income to get approved of a loan modification? Do they understand that this is going to extend my loan term probably like another 15 years? My interest rate might go up. The payment's probably going to go up. What happens if I don't make enough money and I don't get approved? Like, do I have income for the last 6 months to show them? Because a lot of people wait on a loan modification and they don't get approved, and then they just get foreclosed on. So making them understand that, that's a huge thing, that a lot of people just say, oh, okay, you're good, you got it covered, and then they just end that phone call. But they probably are pretty scared. They don't really know what's going on, and they say they're working with their lender. The next thing is filing bankruptcy. Sometimes people just say, oh, if I can't figure it out, I'll just file bankruptcy. Same type of process. They don't realize that this is a big payment plan. There's lots of fees from attorneys. It's bad on their credit, and it oftentimes is just kicking the can down the road, because if you put someone on like a 60-year payment plan for a bankruptcy, right, and they can't afford that payment, it's like paying sometimes like double their mortgage, because now they have the back payments on the mortgage, any other debt, and they create this big payment plan. But the moment they miss one payment, they fall right back into foreclosure. So we see so many people that file bankruptcy and then they fall right back into foreclosure. It'd be curious to look up a stat on how many people actually complete the entire bankruptcy like payment plan, because I would bet it's very low, because it's so much more expensive than what they're paying right now, and they already are behind on their payments. The question they could ask is like, how does the foreclosure process work? I think understanding that in your market is huge, because a lot of homeowners have their head in the sand for the most part, and they don't realize, what happens in this 30, 60, 90-day process. Like, if you don't catch up the payment or modify the loan, the house is going to get sold at county steps. An investor is going to own the property. They're going to come knock on your door. They're going to evict out of the property, and it's a 7 to 10 year nightmare on the credit. And not as a fear-mongering tactic, but really helping them understand like there is a better solution than just letting your house go to foreclosure. Understanding that in your market is huge. Another thing homeowners say is, I don't want to sell my house, and what are my options? Like, that's the biggest thing, is whenever I'm talking to someone like, what are my options to stop the foreclosure, I'm trying to go in showing them, let's see what you could do to keep the house, because a lot of times that is their goal. So I want to, if they say, what are my options, I want to know, okay, can I catch up the payment to reinstate it? Do I have a 401k, savings, other property? I want to walk through all these things extensively, right? So I can actually show them and mentally make them cross off in their head all these options that may not be possible. So reinstating the loan, can I do a loan modification? I'm walking them through, do you have income? Can you show them the last 6 months of pay stubs? Like, are you okay if they extend this out? Your equity gets eaten up, your payment goes up. What happens if you don't get approved? Same thing with bankruptcy. Are you familiar with how that process works? Can you afford a higher monthly payment? Do you want this on your credit? And then we look at, after that, like, do you have a rich uncle? Do you have anyone else that can catch up the payment? Do you have, again, any other property you could sell, jewelry, car? At that point, it's kind of like, okay, well, can't do any of those. Probably gonna have to look at selling it. Is your house in good enough condition to list it? Cash sale, taking over their payments, etc. Can you just loan me the money? So people always say that. Can you loan me the money? Give you a good return. We'll do a personal loan, or I'll give you interest. You can put a lien on my property, whatever it is. And this can sometimes look intriguing to some people that have a ton of equity. There's a reason they can't ever get a loan, or sometimes people will say like, I'm gonna get a loan from someone, or I'm gonna refinance. If you're in foreclosure, your credit's so poor already, because you're 6 months probably behind on your mortgage, sometimes more. So they're not gonna be able to get a loan from anyone that's not family or friends. So it's reiterating that to someone of like, look, I understand, that's awesome. Like, I wish we could just give you 30 grand and stop your foreclosure. Unfortunately, we would have no job, right? We're here to, make money as well, but we want to put you in a better spot. No one's going to be able to give you a personal loan due to your credit, unless you have, a rich uncle or a family or friend that's willing to, do a deal with you, but not everyone is willing to want to work with family or ask for that. So kind of crossing that off the list of like, we're not here to just be a lender, right? That's what your bank is. And unfortunately, you haven't paid them in 6 to 12 months. So they're asking for, the back payments that are called due. So it's going to be really hard for someone else to loan you money when you haven't paid for the last 12 months. And I'll try to be super transparent. Like, if you were a lender and you hadn't gotten paid for the last 12 months, like, do you think you would loan someone more money? In the nicest way possible. Usually they're okay, that makes sense. Can I stay here? Like, can you just catch up the payments and let me buy it back? A lot of people will say, oh, I'll catch up your loan, I'll buy the house, and then I'll give you the option to buy it back. So many people use this as like an opt-out to do a kind of sketchy deal. Letting someone buy back the property is essentially a pretend sale. If they ever wanted to sue you, you're pretty screwed because they see it as a loan. It's not an actual sale if you actually put in an agreement that they can buy back a property. So that's super sketchy. Even letting someone just lease there, and when you know they can't afford their mortgage, is pretty rough. So like if you're gonna catch up their mortgage and let them lease it, knowing they're not gonna pay in 2 months and you evict them, that's a pretty bad situation. I almost always use that to explain to the homeowner how people will try to do that, and then pivot to why you should just sell and help get relocated into a better spot, because we can put cash in your pocket. You don't have to deal with all these legal battles of someone just essentially breaking the law. So I would try not to lease it back to people, but a lot of people will ask, like, can you just catch up the payment? Let me buy it back. Another one could be something we often do is like a joint venture, and you gotta be smart with the right seller, but like, can you fix up the property so we can resell it? This is something we will do. Like, we'll reinstate the loan, or we'll partner with them. We'll get on the deed, but we'll do a joint venture to resell it. So we'll fix up the house. We'll get the protection first by putting our name either on title or getting a deed, and then we'll fix up the property and sell it. And if they have a lot of equity, sometimes we'll take 10, 15% of the sales price, or maybe it's a percentage of the proceeds on the sale. So that can be worth it. You're not letting them buy it back. You're just telling them, hey, instead of you getting a low cash offer, we can actually put some work into it, sell it to a retail buyer, especially when some of these higher like houses where they know they're getting way too low of a cash offer. Your risk is low if you're just willing to take a percentage of the sales price after you get your cost back. Obviously, if you put 50 grand into it, you're gonna get that back and then a percentage of the proceeds. It's kind of an easy cop out too, instead of just getting people on like a cash offer or sub 2, when a lot of times people pitch this JV option like it's the end all be all, like this is going to get you so much more money. And the reality is, at the end of the day, the homeowner might make the same or less, but 6 months later. So it's like, why not just like get this cash number? And if that's what makes more sense, let's do that. Some people may not just understand it, right? So always understand how foreclosure works in your market. What does the lender process looks like? Like, understand loan modifications, Chapter 7 and Chapter 13 bankruptcy. How do I walk someone through what I need to buy a property at cash versus explaining taking over their payments? Sometimes people ask that, like, what do you mean you're buying my house, taking over my payments? How does this help me? What are the risks? Really, at the end of the day, their credit's in a bad spot. If you are gonna buy something subject to, you're catching up their loan and taking over those payments, that's helping them because you're making the loan current, you're improving that every month after, and a lot of times that is the best option. So it's like, why would you let the property go to foreclosure and have a huge credit nightmare versus me just taking over your payments? The incentive is like, yeah, we have a lower rate, but also it's quicker. I don't have to go through a retail transaction that we don't have enough time to do, and it's the biggest benefit to you because there's probably not a number that you could buy cash if you're gonna buy it sub 2. So it's usually the best case scenario, and it's like it should almost be a relief to a homeowner if you're gonna be buying it sub 2 because they had no other option that would work that well. I got it figured out. You got it figured out. Someone's reinstating the loan for me. That's really just diving deeper into all these. Like, is there a reason they haven't paid it yet? Do they know when this has to be sent in? Have you ordered a payoff or reinstatement? All of this stuff takes time. So pressing the urgency of like how long it takes to sell a property. I can't do this in 2 days. Like, we have to do title work. We have to order all these documents. Always hinting at the urgency because it is real. Like, you can't close on a foreclosure deal 3 days before. We can try to postpone it and do some of these steps so that we can close in 2 weeks, but you got to be able to work with you ideally that month prior versus a few days prior. That's a lot of things I run into, a lot of objections that you'll see. So hopefully that helps. Everything pre-foreclosures.